Hello and welcome to episode 3 of He Says, She Says Film Reviews. I'm Dave G, and joining me right now is my co-host,
Lee G.
And tonight we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Disney film that is fresh out around the world at the moment. We were lucky enough to go to the Australian premiere on the weekend of Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, there's a lot of focus on this movie at the moment because, of course, this is the first movie that Disney has had out in cinemas for over 12 months. Yes, that's right. With the COVID lockdown, the last Disney movie that was supposed to be in cinemas before all of this was Mulan. And it only really got a release in cinemas in some Asian countries. For the rest of the world, we saw the rise of what Disney called their online experience. And Raya and the Last Dragon is actually the first Disney film in over 12 months to get released and being released into cinemas at the same time as it goes online. Now, the film tells the story of a young warrior voiced by Kelly Marie Tran. The character is called Raya. Now, she inherits the skills of her father, Benja, voiced by Daniel Day Kim, who protects the last of the dragon gemstones. Now, there's a little bit of history here. The country that they find themselves in was once part of a bigger country called Kamandra, but after a vicious kind of war which saw most of the dragons destroyed, the dragons ended up having to defeat these evil characters called Druns, and we ended up with one last dragon who has gone completely missing, and there is all that's left of their magic is this gemstone, which Benja is tasked to look after. Now, with Raya following in his footsteps, he dreams of Kamandra coming back together as a country, and he invites all the other leaders of the other divided countries to come together with the hope of bringing Kamandra back. But unfortunately, that doesn't prevail, and as a result, the gemstone gets broken. It goes into all different countries. The Druns come back. People get turned to stone, and suddenly Raya finds herself on a journey to try and get all of the pieces of the gemstones back together, but she is stopped by Namara, voiced by Gemma Chan, and her mother, who feel that they are the rightful owners. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes Suzu, the last dragon, voiced by Awkwafina. Now, that sounds like an absolute mouthful. It sounds like a Lord of the Rings style film. What did you think of this film, Lee? Because I thought this was an absolutely massive, epic Asian animation tale being told by the Disney studio.
It definitely was. The visuals were absolutely amazing, better than I would have expected even. Each character was just awesome. There were some really cute characters in there. There were characters that were just really had depth to them. It was easy to connect with everyone. I think something that stood out to me was when you realised which actor's voice went with the character.
Yeah.
You could actually see kind of a visual personal likeness of that character in them.
Especially Daniel Day Kim. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. And I think also Awkwafina was really noticeable.
Yeah.
She
when she takes human form.
I was going to say, she plays a dragon, but also when she takes human form, you can really see her in the character. So I think, the animation has been done just so well. I think it's good for any age, really, to see it. Maybe small children, it might be just a bit too old for them. So
yeah.
I think a 5-year-old might be a little bit too young, but I think, it's really good, I think, maybe for 10-year-olds. Teenagers might still enjoy it too, I think. I think if I took my niece and nephew there, nieces and nephews there, I think they'd really enjoy it. And certainly as an adult, sometimes I don't always enjoy animation because sometimes it's pitched obviously for kids, but it's just got that real youngness to it where it's just a bit silly sometimes for adults. But this, I think, was enjoyable for all ages.
I thought one of the amazing things about this film was not, aside from the animation, I thought the animation in this was a whole new level. I've been saying for a little while now that I thought that Pixar's kind of fallen backwards behind some of the other animation studios, namely DreamWorks Studios. But I thought this was a big step up for Walt Disney Studios with the way this film looked. There was times when I actually forgot that I was watching an animation when they were doing close-ups of Raya, and you pointed out to me during the film at one point you could even see the big cats that Namari was riding. You could see them breathing and things like that. One of the things I really loved about this film, though, was that the producers and creators of this film have really embraced the Southeast Asian cultures. They went to Thailand, they went to Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Laos when they were putting together this movie, and they took elements of all of those cultures and put it together in the film, and I thought that was an absolutely amazing thing. I also think that I love the fact here that Disney have gone with actors with Asian culture as well in their backgrounds. There was rumours that originally another actress was supposed to voice Raya, and Disney went back and replaced her because they felt that they needed an actress with an Asian background. And I thought that is an absolutely amazing thing, because over the last 12 months, we've really seen a rise of Asian cinema. Here in Australia, in the cinemas, we've just seen A Writer's Odyssey, the big Chinese epic fantasy, have its season extended because they sold so many tickets. We've seen Earwig and the Witch come out. We've seen Demon Slayer, the movie, come out. And while Hollywood has been sleeping, it feels like the rest of the world has finally discovered this gem that some of us have always known about with Asian cinema. And it feels absolutely amazing that now Disney are embracing that as well. And they've brought out Mulan last year, and now Raya and the Last Dragon, where they embrace Asian culture rather than kind of mimicking it or ripping it off to an extent. So I thought that was amazing how they embraced the culture and made this such a stunning film.
Yeah, definitely. You really felt like you were being taken on a journey to the different lands and just seeing how different people groups were operating, I guess. Through the whole movie, though, there was a beautiful storyline of a real desire to come together and be united instead of fighting against each other or fighting over something that you want versus something another people group wants. And seeing the journey of that maybe coming together or maybe not coming together and not knowing what the outcome's going to be, but the determination of a legacy of a father leaving for a daughter, with Raya to really work towards that, but also the complexity of her maybe wanting revenge for something that happens to her father in the film, and whether she still wants that or whether she might go down the revenge path or not.
I loved also the characters that come into this that end up joining Suzu and Raya on their journey as well. There's a little boy who is the captain of a ship, which sounds funny because he's so tiny. Bun, voiced by Isaac Wang. There's also Tong, who's a huge warrior who, when Raya and Suzu first meet him, they think that he's going to kill them. He's voiced by Benedict Wong, and he ends up being like the nicest kind of character, and he's the only character that can get close to Noi, who is how do I describe her? A con woman in the body of a baby, and she's voiced by Talia Tran. But I just love that whole idea that the only character that could really bond with her was Tong, this huge, great big warrior that when you look at him, you think, oh, he's going to kill everybody that's around him, and he ends up being like one of the softest of the characters. the other characters in this as well, and it's something that I think they've done remarkably well. What did you think of the critters in this, namely Noise Three Monkeys and also Tuk Tuk?
Oh, Tuk Tuk was my favourite character of all of them. I think he's a bug of some sort.
Yep.
She refers to him as a bug at some stage. I was trying to figure out what he was. He looks a little bit almost like a hedgehog in some scenes. But yeah, he was probably one of my very favourite characters. I think there's a cuteness to the film, but on top of that, there's a real depth and a real mission for something to be achieved within the film.
I love that Disney brought in these critters, but they didn't make the mistake that some studios have made in the past where they let those critters kind of get in the way of the storyline. I'm thinking here of Frozen 2 with Olaf, where it was almost, you felt in that film where it was like the people writing the film are like, oh, we've got a really serious moment going on with Elsa, but, the kids are going to need a laugh, so we'll bring in Olaf for a stupid song kind of thing to ease it up. I liked the fact that you did have these cute creatures, and I think Noise Monkeys are the best example of this, where there's some great comedic moments in there. Like there's one point where the monkeys are restless and they're throwing shrimp at Bun, like trying to get him to cook more for them. But it doesn't overshadow what's going on. In fact, the monkeys become very important later on when Raya is able to use the monkeys and Noi to do some of the work that she needs done. I thought there was a great balance there. I was a little bit worried when Suzu first appeared and they kind of made her a goofy kind of dragon, because for some reason in my head I was expecting a more serious dragon like we saw in the last adaptation of Pete's Dragon, where the dragon was kind of more serious. And then when it showed up and the dragon seemed to take on the characteristics of Aquafina, I was like, uh-oh, are we heading into Olaf territory here where the dragon's going to be comedic relief? But I think they actually juggled that quite well and actually had the right mixture of comedy, drama, and suspense all the way through this film.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And each character had a purpose to the film. They weren't just there for comic relief. Within the storyline, they definitely had a purpose within the film.
Yeah. One of the bits that I was wondering about, and I was wondering how you received this, you said earlier on about the film being okay for people of all ages. Did you ever think that any of the fight scenes might be a little bit too much for a younger audience? Because there was a especially kind of aggressive scene later on in this movie between Raya and Namari that was quite full on with physical punches, and of course early on, and this is not a spoiler for everybody out there, it happens very early on, but you see Benja, Raya's father, get shot by an arrow. How do you think that will go with a younger audience?
Look, there were actually little kids in the screening that we were in, and I didn't hear them react to those scenes.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to be an overwhelming, cry out about that shouldn't have happened, or I'm scared about that, or anything like that. As I said, though, I think, it's more for that little bit older age group, maybe 10-year-olds and above. But I think kids are really quite resilient in animated films, and I didn't feel like there was background noise, too much of really scary sounds all the time, which I think in film, when there's huge sounds, and when you're in a cinema, almost the seats sometimes shake and things like that, and kids can get really scared. I didn't really notice that going on, and so I think maybe it's a little less scary because you didn't have the booming sounds to go with it. Not that I noticed, unless, it just went over my head, but I didn't notice that happening.
So I guess to sum up, what are you going to give this one out of 5 and why?
I will give it a 4. I think for animation, it's one of the best, that in most recent times that has come out. And again, as an adult, I do like animation, but I'm also, sometimes enjoy it, sometimes don't. But with this one, I enjoyed it the whole way through. So a 4 from me.
Yeah, it's getting a 4 from me as well. I thought the animation in this was just completely next level. Expect this film to get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature. Really, the only film that's going to give it any competition at all is Earwig and the Witch, which came out of Studio Ghibli. But I think when it comes to comparing animation, for those people out there who listen to the Popcorn Conspiracy, you would have heard a few weeks ago we talked about the fact that Studio Ghibli tried a new form of animation with Earwig and the Witch, and it's kind of been had mixed reactions to how people have taken Studio Ghibli going away from that traditional Japanese animation to something different. The animation for Raya and the Last Dragon is amazing. Like I said before, there was times when I was watching Raya on screen and I thought I was watching an actual actress play the role. It was that brilliantly done. So that's a 4 out of 5 from Lee for Raya and the Last Dragon, and a 4 out of 5 from me as well. Go along, check it out, because I think this is one of the animation features of the year. Disney need to take an absolute bow over this film because this is absolutely stunning. For now, I've been Dave G.
And I'm Lee G.
And we'll be back very soon with another episode of He Says, She Says Film Reviews.